We are here today with Jim from the Groundskeeper Inc. It's almost spring. A lot of you are preparing for, or actually in the middle of renovating your outdoor space. So we thought it would be a perfect time to get Jim on here. Jim, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you was, can you tell us a little bit about your business to start off with?
Yeah, the Groundskeeper was established roughly 22 years ago by the former owner, Dale Beard. He's a local guy out of Boonesboro. I started working for him about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And just always have been involved with horticulture or landscaping. He was ready to retire, so I purchased the company, and that was almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
And have just been pretty much keeping the same business plan and things like that he did, and just continuing to provide the service that Groundskeeper always has.
Yeah. So he's built something good up, and you're just passing the torch and really just taking it to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you're here today too.
Correct.
Because it's to put the word out for the groundskeeper. So with that being said, I know you are very educated when it comes to horticulture. We had talked before. I wanted you to kind of touch base on how you got into landscaping and horticulture in general in the first place.
Sure. I actually started my own little mowing business whenever I was 14. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, mowing lawns, doing small landscape projects in the neighborhood. And then, always had a passion for it. Sort of knew from then that that's what I wanted to do. So I went to Penn State and took a horticultural science, graduated from there. Also knowing that I wanted to eventually own my own business someday or do something, I emphasized in business. And then when I graduated there, took a job down in near Gaithersburg, Maryland. And that's where I started my landscape career. Worked there and a couple other places for a while, and then eventually came back to Hagerstown, and like I said, started working for the Groundskeeper.
And you said, you mentioned Hagerstown. So the business is based in Sharpsburg, correct?
Yeah, it used to be in Hagerstown, but now we're based out of Sharpsburg.
But you still, as far as like your service area goes, what would that encompass?
Yeah, we service the local tri-state area, so Berkeley County, Frederick County, Washington County, and then up in Pennsylvania would be
Franklin County.
Yeah, so
Okay.
pretty much hit those counties.
Like the Tri-County,
Yeah.
Quad County area.
Quad County, yeah. We will travel further for certain jobs, depending on size, and we have done that. But for the everyday, most of the everyday maintenance stuff, we try to stick in that area.
And what kind of services do you specifically offer? Because when I was getting to know you and learn about your business, you have like a lot of stuff you do. So when someone says landscaping or when they say horticulture, like there's a lot more to it than I realized. So could you go into like the specific, like if you had the list of services that you all offer or provide?
Yeah, we actually are a broad base of services. We try to service the client fully so that we can be sort of the one-time show up, do everything.
Yeah.
We have a full carpentry crew that does carpentry stuff, and pretty much anything with wood, exterior,
So like
fences, privacy screenings,
Yeah.
Things like that. We do
Decks.
We've done, during the winter, we try to keep busy doing stuff. We've installed vinyl flooring, laminate flooring. We've done things like that.
Yeah.
We have 2 crews that mow full time, another one that does part time. One of the things that we do that a lot of companies don't get into is we custom bag grass. So we have actual trucks and equipment set up that we can bag with larger mowers, and we can drive the mowers right onto the truck and dump the grass.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, so a lot of that's sort of a niche of ours that we do.
Yeah.
We do commercial and residential mowing. We do full hardscaping, which a lot of people don't know what hardscaping is. That's basically like your construction type stuff, pavers, retaining walls. It would be like fencing, anything like that that's outdoor. We have a crew that's equipped to do that. We also do finished concrete. We have a guy that just that's all he does, does our finish work.
Okay.
We also have maintenance crews that do landscaping, trimming, pruning, mulching, pretty much anything with your flower beds. We plant trees, we install, we do all that kind of stuff. And then I myself do design work. So we can do, scaled blueprints. We can do, simple little sketches to, like I said, up to scaled actual, commercial drawings to residential homes. We can start you from basically blueprints from your builder, and we can go off of that and create landscape plans for your entire property.
So you're the one-stop shop. There's a lot of services there.
Yeah.
But it sounds like if someone doesn't have a clue what they want to do with their space, but they know what they want to do something, they should hit you up to help with bringing that vision to life. And then, that will help them maybe get some ideas, I'm sure. And when you mentioned the bagging the grass, I just can't help but think of freshly mowed yard. You go out and try to play in it. The grass sticks to your feet and all that stuff. So I think that's a really good service that I don't really hear many other places talking about. So I think that was pretty insightful there. But if you were talking to the commercial side, property managers or anything like that, how do you help those people?
We're definitely budget minded for the commercial people, especially right now with the economy and everything. People are really trying to stretch their dollar. And, there's things that we try to do that to not limit quality, but try to help with, cut the budget. There's every property is different in that, maybe to the amount of mowings, to the, if they get lawn treatments, it might be changing up their program, all kinds of different ways that we can help budget and save them money. And compared to whereas the homeowners usually a little more worried about the little details and the intricate stuff in their yard, and they're willing to pay a little more, and to get that service of the high quality that they want. They don't want to compromise the price for the quality. So
right.
they're a little more apt to spend a little more,
right,
because they have the budget to do it.
Right.
But at the same time, there are homeowners that care about that too, and they have a budget. Yeah. And so every project's different, and we try to work with the person to come up with a plan and a program to work for them.
Whenever I hear you talking about it, like a lot of people want to know just how much is it going to cost, but it sounds like it's pretty custom, and you really can't have a cookie cutter quoting process. It sounds like you need to see. So I don't know if you want to go into that. Like if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's their process going to look like?
So that's why we highly recommend that you get an estimate. We do free estimates. Free estimate includes a person coming out, looking at your project, quoting you an estimate. If you want design, like a significant amount of design work or anything like that, there's usually an extra fee. Usually we adjust that fee into the off the job if you eventually sign a contract. But when we give a quote, and like us, it's hard to give a set price even on mowing, because like even if you say, oh, I have an acre, well, how much trimming's involved? Are we edging sidewalks? Mm-hmm. Do you want bed weeding done while we're there? Do you want, so depending on what you want, what kind of service, same thing, it's everybody expects has expectations of what level of service they want. So, of course, if the higher the service and the more hours we're there, the more time we're there, it's going to cost more. So, so there really isn't like a by acre.
Right.
I mean, there's an industry standards that people go by that, like, I want to be at this number for so many man hours, but really to give somebody a quote.
One thing that you had said that stuck with me when we were talking about, your pricing, your quoting and all those things was, you had said a certain scenario where, like, if you can't get a bigger mower in because they got a gate or something, it influences how fast you can do the job, which would influence. So like you would think, okay, a zero turn can get in there and whip it at and get this job done, but if the zero turn can't get through the gate, that changes things, right? So when you told me that story, I was like, it was kind of eye opening there. And as a homeowner, I think that's something you don't typically think about.
No.
I've had to take my fence down before so they could get it in, and it was like, but then at that point I could have just push mowed it myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you are a certified, you have a degree in horticulture. Could you kind of give us a background on what that means exactly, horticulture? There's landscaping, there's horticulture. If you had to define that and describe that to somebody.
I think that I've never really looked up the definition of, I know what horticulture is, but what would be the difference? But I would say that, horticulture is a broad spectrum of all basically plant science and like outdoor living type stuff. It's not just about like agronomy would be like the study of grass, and botany would be just the study of plants. But in horticulture, I had all that. So chemistry, botany, agronomy. I took covered fertilizer classes. So it's basically like a spectrum of everything, like dealing with horticulture, dealing with outside soil makeup, about like soil analysis. So you're dealing with the soils. So basically it's a study. It's basically was everything that I think falls under landscaping, like you would do in the landscape field.
Yeah.
And and then also, I know I didn't touch base earlier, but I've had numerous certifications and classes and other things like, ICPI is one that's a international certification of paver installation.
Yeah.
Plateau was a big organization that when I worked down the road, we were very involved in. I honestly don't even know if they're around anymore, but I did that certification, retaining wall certification classes, done a lot of follow-up plant classes with different nurseries to get the updates with the plants and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing thing. There's always new things coming out, and anybody that's really truly dedicated to the green industry or the industry should always have something to go, learn or do to keep up to date and things like that. So that's our big focus. And I try to get as many of my guys to do stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So we're constantly, knowing what's going on in the industry. So
well, and I've seen some of your work in person to know, especially like I'm walking in the building multiple times like throughout the year, and like as the seasons change, I've seen how your work almost behaves, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like a certain time of the year, something else blooms, and it's like the perfect time. And so what I've learned is things have to get along. Right? Like some things can kind of cannibalize other plants. And can you kind of speak on that? Like some people want to put things side by side that might not go along. Like,
a lot of plants. I mean, there's a lot of things like, certain plants will get berries if there's a male and a female. Certain plants will, are more of I don't want to say a nuisance plant, but are like rapid growers that can overgrow an area. So it is important to know like what you're planting. And a lot of people are misled by the term dwarf. So, a tree that normally gets 80 feet tall could be called a dwarf, and it only gets 30 feet tall, but it's still going to get 30 feet tall.
Yeah.
They think because it's dwarf, it's only going to get 2 feet tall. But so it's really, dwarf is just a sort of a generic,
right.
But a lot of things like that, people don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I encourage people, like if they're looking at plants, that's why it's, go to the local nurseries that actually know about the plants, and instead of like your big competition stores that don't really necessarily, they know they have plants, but they might not know a lot about them.
Yeah.
And also that's what we're here for, if you have questions about the plants and everything, that's, but there's, and some plants there's a lot of plants out there that are considered invasive that that you plant and it'll end up being a nightmare. So so choosing the right plant for the location, and then like you said, knowing when they flower or when they don't flower, so that you always have something that looks nice. And mixing some flowering stuff with evergreens, which stay green all year round, but at least you have some kind of color. So that kind of stuff is that's what we're here to help with.
I've noticed it kind of like extends the maintenance schedule, I guess, to where you don't have to like constantly be there all the time, because like things, it's almost like it was the example work I seen almost looked like you set it up for it to be low maintenance, almost like easy to maintain, but still eye catching, and like the curb appeal was amazing. So, but I know you had said that you yourself started in this industry, just starting a mowing business, and now it's way different than that. You don't just mow, and you have education behind you, training, certificates, and all those things. So I think it's important for people to understand that you could hit up a landscaper. Anybody can call themselves a landscaper. Anybody can buy a mower, or even a push mower, and then boom, they're in business. So I think people need to understand that working with a company like the Groundskeeper Inc., you are licensed and insured, correct? And so you, I guess, could you tell us a little bit about that side of things?
I can't stress enough, people, there's a lot of companies out there, like you said, that are doing the work, but, a mower puts a rock through your window, or somebody hits your car while it's parked in your driveway. That stuff is not going to be covered. And of course, all of us out there that have legit business and trying to do things by the books, you can't compete with people like that. But the homeowner needs to understand that, although our prices are more, we take responsibility for what happens on your property, and if hopefully nothing would ever happen, but if it does, that you're covered, that something's going to be done about it.
Yeah.
And it's night and day with the just the fly-by-day guys that are trying to, and I know everybody needs to get started somewhere, but that people need to understand that the guys that are out there doing it the right way, there's a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to do it right, it's going to cost.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you a chance to bring that up, because I thought that was a good point as well. It was like, what if something happens to your property? Is that guy gonna disappear?
Yeah.
We kind of touched on materials a little bit. Could you go into like how you would decide what materials you're going to choose for a job?
Yeah, like I said, we're getting high-end specimen of plants. As far as materials, hardscape materials, we shop around. We use several different suppliers, but a lot of it has to do whether, some homeowners already have seen pictures and they say, oh, this is what we want to use. We like this product. And that's great. That's actually saves a lot of work on my end if the more the homeowner knows they want. And overall, all the materials are pretty much the same as far as how they're installed and how they're used. It's just a matter of pricing and colors and details that make the difference.
Yeah.
Some are a little better quality than others, so you can save a little bit of money. But yeah, pretty much everybody's in the ballpark, competitive with each other.
Yeah.
So we try to deal with, like I said, local people and local suppliers.
And then with that being said, some people need ideas, right? So for someone watching this right now, they're looking at their property and they know they're not happy. They need something done. I use myself as an example for this. So like for me, if I'm wanting privacy, I got 2 neighbors next door. What are some ideas for that scenario?
Plants are a great option. It's probably the least expensive route to go. We have a capability of getting rather large stuff. So, a lot of people, like for your example, would like a screen of plants would use like green giant arborvitae or something like that. And they're readily available at 15 to 20 feet tall already that can be planted. Of course, there's a bigger expense, but if you need that instant privacy, or then there's the option of going with depending on your, if you don't have any HOA regulations or things like that, you could do a privacy fence. Most restricted 6 feet, but some don't. Some you can go a little higher, but we can install vinyl or wood or any different options. So there's and then like I said, we're very customer oriented, so we we try to deal with the customer very closely. We're up to if you don't have an idea, like you're no clue what you want to do, we have places that we can take you to see some examples. We can meet there. Look at some stuff. If we're choosing plants, we can meet at the nurseries, walk through the nurseries, and choose plants and things like that. Once the project gets to a certain point, we offer that as a courtesy with the job. If you just wanted to, hey Jim, can you meet me at the nursery on Saturday? There's probably going to be a charge for that because. But yeah, it's we've done that a lot, and there are actual hardscape what do you want to call them, example areas, like display areas that we can go look at stuff too, for like pavers and retaining walls. There's a couple of locations in Hagerstown, and then also we have a list of references that we keep on hand. So if hey, I'm interested in this patio, and there's someone similar that we've done work for, we can put you in contact with them. You could go out to their property and take a look, and and I can meet you there too, whatever. But we have 7 or 8 different clients that are very willing to do that.
That's good. That's nice of them, because like one thing people don't realize is one of the best ways you can help a local business is things like that, referrals, reviews, and that's going above and beyond those customers there.
Yeah.
So that's great to hear. Yeah. So, and they wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't a good service, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So you had mentioned the hardscaping thing again, and I know it's more than just decoration. It's good if a retaining wall can look nice. And I've seen some of yours years later that are still up and like look amazing, like they were just built. But what are the purposes of these retaining walls?
A lot of it starts out for drainage issues. A steep hill slope, trying to direct water a different way or change elevation. A yard that's too hard to mow because it's too steep, so you could terrace it off with retaining walls. Sometimes it's just decorative reasons. It's really not mandatory to have one, but people want like a raised bed, and they just want that look of that wall in front. Yeah. So, they're great. They're structurally sound when built right. The footing's in right. The drainage behind the wall's right. I mean, they'll last forever. So they're a lot of times there's other ways, but retaining walls are probably the best way to control those issues.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen some over the years as like they start tipping, like the ground moves or something, I guess, and it just causes this. And then all of a sudden, like maybe a stone fall, they just start crumbling if they're not done right. They don't. Yeah. They won't last long if they aren't done properly.
Yeah.
And then one of the other things was the maintenance side of things I wanted to ask you. So like, do you have some low maintenance ideas? Say there's somebody out there that really doesn't have a budget to like pay somebody to do their stuff, but they want something that's going to be low maintenance.
Yeah, there's decorative gravel. There's some people use timbers instead of retaining wall. That tends to be a little less expensive. And then, just simply maybe if it's not that bad of a slope or a grade, you could just do stripping the bed and doing like mulch and a ground cover. Okay. Depending on every situation is different, but depending on what they're trying to accomplish. My goal personally as a landscaper, I always try to make things low maintenance, insect disease resistant, so that there's, down the road they're not constantly outside having to do something because people, these days are so busy and they don't want to do that. And like you said, they may not want to pay the groundskeeper to come back, 2 times a year or 3 times a year to take care of it. They sort of want a one-time and done thing. And, now sometimes you can do the best you can, but it's impossible to make nothing's maintenance. I don't want to say maintenance free, but we try to limit it and get them into what they need. But and like I said, that all starts out with just making an appointment for an estimate and coming out and taking a look at it because everybody's different. It's different. So and so many times people will try to tell you on the phone. And, you think you have a good understanding, then you show up and it's like, wow, this is nothing what I thought they were talking about. So it's definitely better just to go out and meet them and see exactly what they're talking about.
Well, the reason that I personally wanted to ask the low maintenance question was because I have a steep freaking hill and it's almost like a dangerous situation to mow it. You know what I mean? Like it's too steep. And I'm like, what? So I'm glad you answered that question for me. Okay, so the last question I want to ask you is when you wrap up a project and you finish, what is the feeling you're trying to have your customers have when you're done?
I think that it's basically they're feel that they got more than what they paid for, that there shouldn't be any doubts of quality wise or issues with the project, that basically it's 100% satisfaction. I expect them to they shouldn't be any buts. I don't want to hear this is great but right. So and then also just that they would refer us as a customer to somebody else, because like you had said before, I think that the word of mouth and referrals are the biggest part of our business, and reviews are also important. We're really trying to push our social media stuff. So if they leave us a positive review and a good review, that's good for people to look at. And so yeah, it's just all around, 100% experience is the goal.
Okay.
And we're pretty good at doing that.
Yeah. The people I speak to are fanatic about the quality that you've delivered for them. So, and your team, of course. So with that being said, did you want to tell people how they can reach you and learn more about you and the Groundskeeper Inc?
Sure. So our website's the best way, and probably the most common way to get a hold of us. You can do everything on our website. You can pay bills. You can request an estimate. You can search for all the different services we offer. You can read the reviews that people have left for us. So to do that, it's just simple. So it's www.thegroundskeeperinc.com. Yeah. And then also we have a new phone number that we're using for estimates. And so it's 240-356-7179. And that'll put in contact with our secretary, Cindy Alltop. And she'll be happy to schedule you estimate or help you with any questions that you have. Great addition to our company there, and she's been doing a great job. And then she can put you in contact with me if necessary to, if there's further help needed. And so also if you are a current customer, it'd be great to get on the website and go to the link to leave a review. Every review helps us and helps the customers and gets the word out about us. So it'd be great if you're an existing customer and we're watching this, and it would be a big help to us. So.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Jim, for joining us today. I really appreciate you showing up and divulging some of things about your business, what the industry's like. If you're watching this, you know Jim, you've worked with him, his company. The best thing you could do to support him is to like and share this, leave a comment. If, like he said, if you've had service from him and you're happy, leave him a review. That all helps these local businesses. So with that being said, if you are a local business out there looking for help, you can reach out to us as well. We're River Spirit Media. This is the Wave Makers. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate it, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.